Good morning, everybody. Welcome into 104.3 Fans Coffee Break. We've got D-Mac, we've got Rachel V-Hill hanging out with you. The Zokley Stowe's going to join us here in a few minutes. And then we've also got Andrew Mason hopping on because we have a lot of injuries with this Denver Broncos team to get with. But D-Mac, first of all, last night I was at an event. I did not get to watch the Avs game. What the heck happened?
I am happy to talk about the Avalanche, but I'm very curious about the event. So let me give you the Avs real quick.
Okay.
And I want to get on to your night, an event that I was not invited to. But I did go to the Avalanche, and that was a really exciting game. A lot of Blues fans there, tons of Blues fans,
Really?
for whatever reason. And the Blues, although they've got a bad record, they've been playing well lately.
Okay.
And Binnington, who is the villain from the series for throwing the water bottle at Kadri, was incredible. The Avs had 1 million shots on net. They only let Binnington only let 2 get by. A couple of really quirky goals for the Blues, including, where it was a deflection off Cale Makar's stick that just found this just tiny little area between Georgiev's skate and the post, and that was the second goal. And then to finish up the game, Rachel, this is so unusual. They had a 6-on-3. So with 2 minutes to go, they get the Avs get a tripping penalty, and Shen goes to the box, and then O'Reilly hucks the puck over the glass without touching the glass. That's delay a game. That's an automatic penalty. That's not, that's objective. That's just, you got it. It's not subjective. It's objective. Puck goes over the glass inside your own zone. You threw it there. Doesn't touch it. That is an automatic penalty.
Yeah.
So they have a 2-man advantage for about $1.50 or so. And then they pull Georgiev. So they have a 6-on-3. A 6-on-3 for like 53 seconds. And they couldn't cash in on a 6-on-3. They missed the net 4 times with shots on a 6-on-3. And then
so who was out there?
What's that?
Which one did they go with? Who was out there?
On the power play, it was McKinnon, Rantanen, Taves, Makar, Newhook, and Lehkonen.
But so the star-studded lineup, you would expect. Okay.
And actually, it was a weird night for Newhook. Bednar was very outspoken that he did not like how he was playing, and he actually spent quite a bit of time on the bench because of it. But in that particular situation, they liked his game with the advantage, and they put him back out on the ice. There was some talk that it was just too many guys, that it was just sort of too cluttered. But Bednar said, "Nah, we're used to it. We played with 6 men. We practiced with that. As you would have theoretically 6-on-5 if you were down a goal and you pulled your goalie. So the positioning remains the same. It's just very odd, Rachel. I know DU was in that situation in the national championship game, but you just don't see it hardly at all. Yeah. And so the crowd is going nuts. You're down a goal. It's 6-on-3, and the best power play team in the NHL, which is the Avalanche, the best, couldn't collect on a 6-on-3. Game's over, Avs lose.
Oh, man. That's a heartbreaker, too. For something like that, those last couple of seconds, you're, like, so amped up. I mean, I remember anytime there was a power play at Ball Arena, everyone was like, let's go. It's so fun. Ugh.
Yeah, it was all wired up. There was tons of action. Very exciting game.
For sure.
You lose 3-2, but you are, Rachel, this is crazy who you're missing. You're missing, Val, Landeskog, Gerard, Bo Byram, Darren Helm, Curtis McDermott. It's just wild how many guys that are just, that you've relied on that are just gone. Never mind the guys that just aren't on the team anymore from the Stanley Cup. So you saw a team last night that was a shadow would be underselling it. And they still, had a really tight competitive game because, they do have to get some production, Rachel, from somebody else besides McKinnon, Rantanen, and Cale. It's great that they're playing so well, but they got to get something, sometime from somebody else.
No, I agree. And everybody in the comments, good morning to Paul, Troy, Mel. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We love it. Yeah, it's a bummer. And I've been one who's been saying, I've been almost dissing the Broncos a little bit, saying the Avs have just as many injuries, it feels like, and they're still able to get W's. And then, of course, last night they go and blow that. So,
well, it's a struggle. It's not
Yep.
easy, though, Rachel. It's been amazing how well they actually have done, and they had a 4-game winning streak.
Yep.
But it's not surprising, okay? You're going to have some ups and downs, and now they go on a little bit of a road trip. It feels like they just got back from Finland, and they're headed off to the road again. So we'll see what they come back with. They got to just hang in there till January. They got to do the best they can.
Yep.
Anything around a 500 record or so, Rachel, seriously, would be actually okay. And then hopefully make a push in January and February before the playoffs.
January, February, you're going to get back Labe, you're going to get back Val. Things will hopefully start to come together a little bit more. It's 3 seasons. It's before Gabe, before Val come back. It's when those two come back, and then it's the playoffs. I've been saying it since the season started. It's going to be all right, everybody. Just take a big, deep breath. Take a big, deep breath. But DMAC, let's talk last night a little bit about the event I went to because it did support the Bradley Chubb Foundation. There's going to be an In the Sports Office vlog. I'd personally never been to a gala before, so this was something different for me. You know, you dressed up. There were a lot of now former teammates of Bradley Chubb, but he was able to make it back. So it was a really cool event. People can still choose to donate too. Obviously, they're raising money for the school districts here in Denver. It's a really awesome cause. Bradley does it with his brother Brandon too, and they both spoke. So it was really cool, but a full In the Sports Office vlog will be ready. It'll be coming out, I believe, tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that because you get to
see Rachel, two questions. First, what'd you wear?
I had like a little blazer dress type outfit, and then these Western boots are like very trendy right now. So I wore some like black boots with it. So it was fun. It was kind of cool to get dressed up. Like I don't do that all that often, I feel like.
Okay. And what'd you learn?
You know, you hear conversations that are there, and you learn like different people who are friends, right? Like you probably don't know this, and I actually didn't either, but one of the Bachelor contestants, I guess, like one of the former Bachelors, like they were there because they were best friends with Bradley Chubb, and they actually played football with Bradley Chubb's brother growing up. So they flew all the way from New York to come to this event last night and hang out. And so, yeah, it was kind of interesting to kind of see different dynamics. And like when you get to talk to them outside of football, they're all so kind. Like every single player you talk to is just super nice. And yeah, you learn some things that I'll keep for off air, but you learn a lot of conversations when you go to those type of events. So I was very honored to be able to go and to be able to hang out for a little bit.
Well,
I'm going to leave it at that.
That sounds excellent. How were the spirits of the players? I mean, how was that vibe, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they all had a good night. Obviously, they were there to raise money. A lot of them enjoyed dressing up. Some of them didn't even get the memo that you were supposed to dress up. But overall, I think they were all really excited to see Bradley too. And he did a really nice job of not dissing the Broncos, but also, you know, supporting his current team. Like they did a Bronco, like a picture with all the players, and somebody was like, "Go Broncos!" And Bradley shouted, and he was like, "Just kidding, fins up!" And he like did the fins thing. So it was cool to see like that side of things. And, you know, of course, then all the players kind of joined in and started laughing. So it was cool. It was a fun event.
Yeah, it's interesting defensively. What the Broncos actually did is they moved Draymond Jones from the inside to the outside to replace Bradley Chubb. And you know, the Broncos actually did a great job stopping Derrick Henry from running the ball. And that was their, strategery. And it worked in terms of that. They only allowed 17 points. They weren't perfect, but 17 points should have been enough. Yep. And the Broncos offense couldn't get it going. I spent a ton of time today, Rachel, watching other people watch tape. That's an interesting concept. But if you just sort of go through the internets there, you can see breakdowns. And because I think we're wondering at this point, is it Hackett or is it Wilson? And I think the truth, Rachel, is it's a little bit of both. Because when you watch these breakdowns, you say, well, what are these plays? What are they all about? But then a lot of these other breakdowns, you say, oh, well, here is the play. Here's what it is about. And here's how this could have worked. And every now and then you actually see the plays actually work with Russ and Hackett, what they're calling. What you don't see is any form of consistency whatsoever. And as you watched that game, you just saw so many more breakdowns on the offensive line because of who was actually in.
And we're going to get to the offensive line. Andrew Mason's going to join us here in a little bit. I did see the comment, line up any guests for coffee break. I tossed some out there. Some of the guys laughed. Some of them were like, hey, call my people. We can figure it out. So wouldn't it be fun if we could get something on somebody to hop on?
Who would you want, Rachel? Who would be your number one guest that you would want for coffee break?
Ooh, that's like a really, really tough question. Let me think about that. And while I think about that, we're going to bring in our very own Zokley show. We've got Brandon Zokley and Zach By hanging out with us as we got to go into Santa's Little Helpers. Gentlemen, how are you this morning?
Doing great.
Look at you both. You're just so happy. The thumbs up. Well, we need to get into this naughty or nice situation that you guys are doing with Cherry Creek. An awesome foundation, first of all, to be able to give people a chance to go shopping, which is so cool. So tell us a little bit about it first, and then give me your first naughty player, because I'm curious who it's going to be this week.
Well, I mean, real quick, we're giving away, daily. You're going to hear that ho, ho, ho jingle. Give people an opportunity to call in and win a mini shopping spree and be entered to win a larger shopping spree later. And also, in addition to that, this weekend, it's going to be Saturday, right? We're going to be lighting the tree. Look at that.
Oh,
Look at the ears.
Wow.
See, they had to Photoshop mine. Stokely's they just kept in real life. This weekend, we're going to be at Cherry Creek Shopping Center and actually lighting the massive Christmas tree and getting the holiday season off on the right foot. So really looking forward to the next couple weeks and giving away some shopping opportunities for our listeners, and also this weekend kicking off Christmas on the right foot.
All right, real quick, which one of you is actually going to press the button? Because with the two of you, I feel like it's going to be a fight to who actually does it.
That's a good question. We have not discussed that. I think it'll be like my my son. I'll give him like the fake controller. He'll like think he's pressing it, and I'll have the real one.
Okay, very nice. Stoke, okay, I want to hear. You guys, you're going to give us 3 players who have been naughty or nice this week, because obviously the Broncos game didn't go super well on Sunday. It's a bummer. It is what it is. You got to look ahead. But tell me, who's one player who you are guys putting on your naughty list?
I think for the naughty list, we're going to just go ahead and start off with the whole offensive line. They were really naughty, not good enough. Russell took way too many hits, and they weren't all on the offensive line, but offensive line has to play better, and they were down to some backups, the backups of the backups, but still, hey, that's your job. You got to go in there and do a better job of protecting Russell, giving him more time. So we're going to go ahead and put the whole offensive line on the naughty list.
And just to add to what Stoke just said, 2.9 yards a carry this past week for the Broncos. That's the lowest yards per carry total of the season. So couldn't agree with more with Stoke's naughty.
God, is there anybody going to be on the nice list this week?
Yeah. We have to use a magnifying glass, but we found a couple. And I'll start here on the nice list. Jalen Virgil. I'm so happy for this young man to get the opportunity that he got. And if you're a guy like Jalen Virgil, you're small school, Appalachian State, you're undrafted. Even if you do all the right things over and over and over, which he did during training camp, you still may not get an opportunity like he got on Sunday. And all you can do is maximize it. And there he was for a 66-yard touchdown. Rachel, that's the second longest touchdown of the whole season, right after Jerry Jeudy's 67-yard touchdown from a few weeks ago. So nearly the longest play of the year. And he got to show some speed, man. We were big fans during training camp. He was my first twinkle of the day on training camp day number 1. So it's so cool to see things come into focus for Jalen Virgil. Really happy for him. He's on the nice list.
I'm going to give another nice. It's a season of giving. So we're going to give 2 nices today. Is that okay?
I love it.
We're going to go with Jacob Martin. How about that? Just traded him for him from the Jets. And, instant impact. Got a sack. We're looking like who's going to play outside linebacker. Bradley Chubb just got traded. Baron Browning's hurt. What is it going to look like? And this guy just got here, and he goes out there and has a sack. Actually had 2, but he was offsides on 1. So it took that one away. But a really nice start from Jacob Martin, the new acquisition that the Broncos traded for from the Jets.
No, for sure. So 1 naughty, 2 nice. And actually for them losing, I'm going to take that for this week. D-Mac, who would you give a naughty or nice one to? Let me hear it.
I got to give a naughty to Russell Wilson. It just wasn't good enough, unfortunately. The offensive line, of course, was abysmal late, but in the first half, they actually were okay. And you just missed too many opportunities when you had them. So he gets a naughty. I'll give you a little naughty, too, to Corliss Waitman. If you actually look at his punting, it wasn't all that good. It was low. It wasn't very far. It was kind of like, and I'm not trying to be harsh on the guy, but it wasn't great. I'll give a nice to Draymond Jones and the front for playing a different position, moving to the outside. And because he can move to the outside, you can stuff the big guys up the middle, and you really got nothing out of Derrick Henry if you're Tennessee. By the way, they are frustrated. They won, and they're frustrated over on their side of the ball because they know things aren't going really well. So good for Draymond. I know he's not very happy these days because it sucks, making $18 million per, but maybe he's just upset being with the Broncos. But I thought he played well in an adjusted position.
All right, Stoke and Zach, let's get into the coaching. Where's the issue lie? I'm curious for both of you. Where are you guys putting the blame?
Well, I mean, when it's this bad, Rachel, when it's this bad, and this is the worst it's ever been in franchise history, you can't just place it on one person, and I understand that we live in a world where we got to designate, blame here and there. But if you're looking at like a pie chart and you're going to slice it up, I mean, I'd say, goodness, I'll go 40% Russell, 40% Hackett, and then 20%, the situation and lack of personnel that the Broncos are dealing with. But let's not turn away. Let's not turn away from who's the new hire, who is supposed to be the offensive mind to, get this offense out of the dark ages, and who's making $250 million. I mean, this is the quarterback position in the NFL. Let's not shy away from doling out criticism where it belongs. Russell Wilson has been on anyone's list a bottom 10 quarterback in the NFL. I think he's been actually closer to a bottom 5 quarterback. By completion percentage, he's bottom 5. By QBR, he's bottom 10. By eye test, he's bottom 5. So he's not elevating anyone right now, and it's really discouraging to watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, Rachel, when you have this many issues, there's a lot of blame to go around, right? I think overall, when you look at this thing, the captain of the ship here is who? Is Nathaniel Hackett. So most of the blame is going to go on him. That's just the way it works. I mean, this guy's a head coach. And so Russell Wilson isn't going anywhere. It hasn't been close to being good enough, and he's the captain of the ship. So if you're going to delegate blame here, I got like 80% Nathaniel Hackett, 20% Russell. He's got to play better. But who's the guy leading this football team? And ultimately, he's going to be the fall guy for everything. Russell's staying here. He's got the big contract. So Nathaniel Hackett's the guy that's on the hot seat, not Russell. And, he's the captain of it all.
I got to laugh at this really quick because I agree basically with both you guys. I guess I'm leaning a little bit more towards Zach because I think it's more even Steven. But if it's 40% Hackett, who hired Hackett? If it's 40% Russ, who brought Russ in and paid him? And if it's 20% other guys in depth, well, who brought that in? How are we not just talking about what George Payton has done or not done?
Yeah, no, and look, George Payton, he hasn't gotten everything wrong. There's a lot he's gotten right? You look at some of the draft moves, the new addition. He just talked about Jacob Martin. You look at Nick Bonito making plays. You look at Greg Dulcich making plays. Pat Surtain looks the part. But it's almost like having the perfect paint for the house, getting the best rugs, getting the nicest lights, but you screwed up the foundation of the house. So those are the biggest moves, the coach and quarterback. So, if you get the rest of these personnel moves, okay, that's great, but that's getting the right varnish and the right paint. The foundation is not stable. The foundation of the Denver Broncos right now feels like it's built on sand.
Good.
Greg Dulcich is the varnish.
Okay. Greg Dulcich.
Stoke, I was at an event last night with a bunch of players who were in pretty good spirits, but you know what it's like to be in the locker room, and everyone's talking about how Nathaniel Hackett is such a good guy. And while that can be true, that can also mean you're not exactly good at your job. Like, what's the turning point between, hey, you're a really good guy, like we are friends, I say that lightly, but I'm not happy with the play that's coming out. Do you see the question I'm trying to ask? Like, at what point is the locker room going to turn, regardless of how good of a guy somebody is?
Well, I think I don't know. I don't think it does because I think those guys realize and appreciate Nathaniel Hackett for taking care of them during training camp. That's the way they look at it. Is he took care of our bodies? He took care of us. It was easy. We feel great. Our bodies feel good. So I don't think they will turn on Nathaniel Hackett. I think ultimately, that's what it boils back down to. Nathaniel Hackett has done a good job of, I mean, the practices were easy. They were soft and easy. That's the way training camp was. But guys appreciate that, right? Because, it was easy. Training camp's hard. No one wants to go through training camp. But the Broncos training camp was easy, and those guys appreciate it. But, on the flip side, look at the product on the football field.
And
not good enough.
And I think just to supplement what he said, I think there's a big difference between liking someone and having ultimate respect for someone. I mean, there's people that I like that I wouldn't hold in the highest regard as leaders and leaders of men and crucial decision makers when things get tough or times get tough. So I think while they like Nathaniel Hackett because he's probably fostered a good work environment on a day-to-day basis, I don't think Nathaniel Hackett has the ultimate respect of this football team. He's never been a head coach before. He started off by falling in his face, and he's been underwater since then. And what would you point to of substance that would say, yeah, this is why when times get tough, this team's going to follow Nathaniel Hackett? Are we actually seeing that? I'm not seeing that.
I tell you what, did you guys see the reaction to the Commanders players to Ron Rivera?
Yes.
As Rivera got choked up about his mom passing away. That's a team that respects their guy and likes him and has, as John Fox would say, skins on the wall. Yeah. So if I'm looking things objectively, I'm rolling with that guy. Look at the Colts. By the way, shame on Bill Cowher. Who the hell is Bill Cowher anyway? Jeff Saturday did a magnificent job in week 1, and you saw the response to him. Bill Cowher should – who the hell put Bill Cowher on TV? The guy got a job when he was 34. Calm down, Bill. It's an offense to the coaching profession. You don't get it. A head coach is a leader of men. Right. He doesn't have to be the best scout or the best film guy. He has to lead men to do their jobs. And instantly you saw it with Rivera. You've seen it with Jeff Saturday like that. I think we're seeing with Evero. Do you see those same qualities out of Hackett? I don't.
Absolutely not. I see a really good assistant. I see a coordinator. I see a players coach who's in the room with his positional groups and is putting his arm around Aaron Rodgers. And, I just don't see a guy that he's using the word accountability. When have we seen accountability?
No.
I'm not seeing a guy that makes hard decisions. Like there's been some hard decisions that needed to be made this year, and he hasn't made them. So I just think that ultimately Nathaniel Hackett will be coach of the Denver Broncos for 16 games or 17 games and not one more.
Guys, really quick, there's a reason why Fangio went 30 years without being a head coach. There's a reason why George Payton went 14 years as an assistant. There's a reason why Coach Hackett's never been a head coach at any level before. There's reasons for all of that.
Well, I don't know about that. Nathaniel Hackett's a young guy, so everybody starts at a different level at a different time, and so this might have been his time to take that next step. Obviously, it hasn't been good enough, and it's the only question is really if it's bad this weekend against the Raiders at home, how does he make it to the following week? I just don't know if you lose to Josh McDaniels and the Las Vegas Raiders at home.
Yeah.
After losing last week, after the Raiders lost to Jeff Sunday and his first ever head coaching performance with a coach who were looking like an awful football team, and you lose to that team, Josh McDaniels and the Raiders at home, I don't know if he survives another week after that. I really don't.
That'll be if they lose, and they're a slight favorite. They are a 2.5-point favorite. We were a couple weeks ago like, will the Broncos be favored in another game here moving forward? They are. It's this weekend. You're supposed to win. It's against your rival. It's Josh McDaniels. If you lose, that would be 7 of 8. That would be losses in 7 of your last 8. I think this is a good old-fashioned loser leaves town match. I think if Nathaniel loses this one, he's out.
I'm laughing at the wrestling reference right there. There's no doubt if you lose this game, it's over. Period. The end. If you win this game, you probably get the rest of the year. Oh, that's a wrap. I can't imagine what the fans' feeling will be if they lose this game. The Raiders are terrible. They've got a worse record than the Broncos. They've lost Waller and Renfro. Derek Carr is crying. His mascara is running at press conferences afterwards. There is nothing with the Raiders, and it's a home game. There's no excuses. You have to win this game. There's never been a more winnable game. If you seriously can't win this game, what game are you ever supposed to win?
Well, there's also no excuses because these two got to get on the radio, and I don't want to get yelled at if they're late for their show. The Zokley show. Zach and Stokely, appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, we've got 3 nice names on the list. I love those two. They're so funny. Somebody commented saying they look like they were in the principal's office. I could see those two getting in trouble enough that they had to go to the principal's office. So it's a good thing they didn't go to school together because they are so funny together.
Oh, I love the Zokley show. It is hard to say sometimes.
It is hard. Zokley, Stokely, Zach and Stoke.
They are a pair.
S's, Z's, you can get them mixed up.
By the way, for Zach to coin the phrase Jeff Sunday is hysterical.
Hilarious.
So I think
so
it's
good.
great. But we're all in agreement, Rachel, about this Sunday for the Broncos as a referendum on Nathaniel Hackett. And I don't think it is all Nathaniel Hackett's fault. I don't. But you just are so committed to Russell Wilson. At the end of the day, you have to think, what can I do for the fan base? And if you don't see any improvement, Rachel, if we don't see any improvement, we saw a regression after the bye week. Sorry, you've run out of time.
I know. And I saw actually a comment that said it's 33% Hackett, 33% Peyton, 33% Russ, 1% injuries. So I think that's actually, I kind of like that. But when we were talking, it came up with a question in my head of, did Nathaniel Hackett get put in a bad position? There were such high, expectations with Russ coming in. This lineup wasn't super stacked. I don't look at this team where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely 100% the best lineup we've ever seen. They just need a quarterback. So did he get put in a bad position and unfortunately it's just all falling down on him? You can totally say.
Yes. I mean, kind of, because I struggle on that. Was he put in a bad position? He's paid millions of dollars to do this particular job. He's an offensive genius, supposedly. But we all understand he was hired as bait to work with Aaron Rodgers, not Russell Wilson. Yeah. So it wasn't what he thought he was hired to do. It's not what they were hoping for. And they just felt like, we didn't get Rodgers. We'll get ourselves another Hall of Fame quality quarterback. He'll be okay. But as it turns out, what Russ does best and what Hackett wants to do are totally divergent things. And
would this team be better with Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he's clearly struggling too. But you think the connection?
No. Well, Rodgers is just a better quarterback than Russell Wilson, period. He's a 2-time defending most valuable player. Rodgers led his team to a big come-from-behind victory against the Cowboys. No, Aaron Rodgers is just flat out better at playing the quarterback position, and things would be better here if they had Aaron Rodgers. I remember when the Broncos were number 2 in the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes, and they got the number 2 guy as terms of free agents. It was Case Keenum. And sometimes, Rachel, the difference between 1 to 2 is remarkable. It's not that close. Sometimes it's, whatever close. Rachel, that's relative value. That's why taking a cornerback over a quarterback, no matter how good the cornerback is, when you need the quarterback, is a bad decision. And that was George Payton. He kept Vic Fangio. He made that terrible decision. He didn't lure Aaron Rodgers 1 year. He didn't lure him a second year. Yeah. To me, this is all on George Payton. The person the most responsible for this is George Payton. And did he find a nice tight end in the 3rd round with Greg Dulcich? I mean, okay, cool. But there's a lot of nice 3rd, 4th round tight ends out there, Rachel. They come out every year. It does not take a genius to find one. There's only 250-something guys in the draft, Rachel. I went back and looked at the picks after George Paton made every single one of his picks. And Rachel, it wasn't all that much better. It wasn't all that much worse. No, Hackett has been beyond average. There's no depth now at offensive line. You hired a coach who's not getting along and communicating well with his quarterback, and you overpaid the quarterback when you didn't have to. Sorry, the first thing I'm doing, if I'm Greg Penner and the Walton Group, is I'm buying Omaha Productions for $1 billion. I'm hiring Peyton Manning and giving him ownership stake, and I'm doing whatever it takes to get Sean Payton here. So I'd have a president of football in Peyton Manning. I have a coach in Sean Payton who would try to make Russell Wilson into Drew Brees, do the best he can, and I'd go from there. And likely that would mean Payton's out, Hackett's out, Allen's out. A lot of these guys are out. And Stoops, I like Stoops. I'm sorry, Evero. I do. And I think Evero should be the interim coach right now. But I just think that guy's going to get another head coaching job with another team. I think he's going to be the hottest candidate. And and we just need too much help with Russell. If we didn't need so much help with Russell, I would say, hey, Evero's my guy. But you need too much help with Russell, and you're too committed to Russell, and you either need a Sean Payton or a Gary Kubiak, somebody who's got those skins on the wall with quarterbacks. Nothing against Evero, because that guy's going to be a great head coach. But you need some experience to work with Russ.
That's actually a good point. Can Evero control the Russell Wilson dilemma that is the Denver Broncos?
Rachel, we have no evidence that he can.
Yeah,
None.
no, I mean, that's a great point, because I've all been for Evero, give him an interim head coach position, see what can work out. All right, well, there are injuries with this Denver Broncos team too. K'Wan Williams is going under the scope to get a look at his knee too. So he will be out at least 4 weeks, which is another bummer to add. But then there's the O-line, and that's a whole nother issue, which is why we bring in our very own Andrew Mason, because Mace, my goodness, I don't even know where to begin, what to like. This O-line is just, it's tragic, to be honest. And I don't even know where to start with it. But I guess, first of all, how are you this morning? How are things on your Tuesday?
I'm fine and dandy. Lovely morning, looking outside, seeing the fallen snow from last night. It's a beautiful day in Colorado. Maybe that's just what we should always say when things are negative with the football team. It's a beautiful day in Colorado, because it almost always is.
True. Okay, so break this down for me. If they have any more injuries, what happens to this Broncos O-line? Because truthfully, they can't really afford to lose anyone else.
Well, the funny thing is, I was thinking about that during the game on Sunday, because, of course, they only had 7 offensive linemen dressed. I mean, they were one injury away from having to tell Eric Tomlinson, a tight end, or Mitchell Fraboni, the long snapper, like, hey, you're going to have to go out there and take some snaps here. You just go through it there. Garrett Bowles is out for the season. Lloyd Cushenberry is at least another 3 games. Tom Compton, who knows? I mean, he's doing some limited practice work. Graham Glasgow, as Hackett said yesterday, they're hoping he's day-to-day. So you might be looking at Luke Wattenberg on Sunday once again. Cam Fleming, he's day-to-day. Billy Turner, the thing that concerns about Billy Turner is it's the knee, because he had the knee that kept him out the first 5 games of the season, and then the knee acted up again on Sunday when he got rolled up. It's just, I mean, it's kind of a mess. It's a mess right now. I mean, you can criticize the depth, no doubt, but at the same time, you are at third options at 60% of the offensive line by the end of the day. I mean, there's a point where, as Tom Moore used to say, you don't practice bleeped. The Broncos are pretty bleeped on the offensive line.
True. Okay, but so what happens truthfully? You go down and you lose 2 more offensive linemen. What, like, who fills in? What happens in that situation? Because, to be honest, I don't think that's out of question. Like, the injuries that this team is going through, it's kind of scary.
It is. I mean, they're already into the practice squad with Quinn Bailey having to be activated and then play most of the game on Sunday at right tackle. You've got another practice squad tackle, Christian DeLauro, who's down there right now. You've got Netani Muti and Will Sherman. Will Sherman's another practice squad tackle out of CU. And Netani Muti, of course, has been around the last few years. And the funny thing is, like, at this moment, they're actually okay at guard, because that's the only the two guard spots are the only positions where they're healthy right now. And yet Netani Muti is the one guy in reserve that you'd probably say, hey, maybe we give him a look. And yet they're fortified there. I mean, it's if Turner's out, if they have to put him on IR, I think they're trying to avoid that. But if they have to put him on IR, I imagine they move Bailey up, and then you see either Sherman or DeLauro activated. But I mean, it's like this is not good. I mean, and the interesting thing is you saw step by step through the game how the sack rate and the hit rate on Russell Wilson increased as guys went down. They were actually faring reasonably well when Billy Turner was out there. It got a bit worse when he got hurt, and then by the time Wattenberg was in there in place of Glasgow, Wilson was literally being hit more than once every two pass plays. Some of that's on him because he's darting around, he's trying to buy time and all that. But there were a bunch of plays, as you could see, where it was just a jailbreak on him. And you see, especially from the tackles, whipping on the inside or outside shoulders of Bailey and Anderson. And he didn't have much of a chance.
You know, it was interesting rewatching the game because the last memory you have is disaster. However, when you rewatch the game, you see huge chunks of the game where things were actually okay. It wasn't that bad. And that's the time that you've got to capitalize on the situation. And they couldn't. And Russ still wasn't seeing things the right way and not reacting the right way. And that is bizarro world. So then you're right. It got ridiculous. It got, now nobody could play quarterback. And even then, they drove the ball down to a reasonable position to try to tie the game. I mean, they got a little lucky. They got a penalty on a fourth down. Russ scrambled for a first down on fourth down. But if you look at the final interception of the game, I mean, Cortland Sutton was wide open. And, Russ was being touched and hit as he was throwing. And perhaps that, changed the angle of his arm, and that's why he sailed the ball. But, I mean, come on. You've got to sort of overcome those moments if you're that guy. Taylor Heineke put on a show last night. And you can't tell me he's a better quarterback than the Broncos. They're that much better of a team than the Broncos. They haven't been. And they did that against theoretically the best team in the NFL.
My only thing on that is, don't you think a little bit of it, and this is not to be disrespectful to the Commanders, but I feel like the Eagles just slightly overlooked them.
Well, it's just hard to go through an undefeated season in the NFL and not have, some ups and downs. But you can't use that as an excuse if you're the Eagles. But okay, and then we got the silly penalty on Heineke for the
or the missed face mask. That's the one that gets me. That on the fumble, it was just one of those nights where if you were in baseball, you just say it wasn't our night. Let's go on to the next day. I mean, for whatever reason. This was in baseball, they'd say you're going to lose 54, you're going to win 54. It's what you do with 54 in between. That was metaphorically one of the ones that you're just going to lose. It was just fated almost that the Eagles weren't going to win that game. But I mean, Heineke was okay. I mean, he wasn't great. I mean, the interesting thing is he's got 5 touchdowns, 4 picks in his starts. He's pretty average. Okay, right? And yet. They found a way to win that game last night. They found a way to beat the Colts. They found a way to beat the Packers with him in there. I mean, so you see just the little things. They're making the plays that the Broncos and Russell Wilson, they're not. And the other thing is when you have a quarterback of Russell Wilson's stature, one of the reasons why you're paying him is he is supposed to elevate everything, right? That's supposed to be the difference between Russell Wilson and Teddy Bridgewater. That they're supposed to elevate the entire operation. That's why Tom Brady is who he is. That's why, Patrick Mahomes is who he is. That you don't necessarily need to have the best surrounding pieces, but they bring it all up. And unfortunately for the Broncos, we have not seen that capability from Russell Wilson except in very brief bursts. The other thing, by the way, you talk about how it look good at times. The Broncos on win probability, they had an 84% chance of winning the game in the second quarter after the roughing the passer penalty when they were moving into scoring range. That was a drive that ended in a field goal. So I look back at the game, and when they only got the field goal, that was when it went through my mind. They might have needed a touchdown there, even against the Titans. That because this team, it's walking such a fine line that when they don't pounce on the moments that they can jump on somebody, it's proving crucial. They've, at some point in every one of their losses, at some point in the second quarter on, they've had a better than 50% chance to win the game by WPA.
Well, look at it was the exact opposite of the Jaguars game, where Justin Simmons made that critical interception, and then later the Jaguars did kick a field goal to make it 10-0, but it never got to 14-0. So the Jaguars had a 10-0 lead, and the Broncos came back to win the game on the last drive. In this game, the Broncos had the 10-point lead, and the Titans, it wasn't the last drive, but they stopped the Broncos as they were driving. So you had a weird inverse relationship to your point. You get a 14-point lead, 2-touchdown lead, okay? That is a big, big difference. And the Broncos had plenty of fine offensive line play in that first half to get there. At the end of the game, I get it. You're right. And, the Titans sat back. They allowed the Broncos to get yards. They did because they just had to stop them from getting in the end zone. So, yeah, it might have looked better because the Broncos did move the ball down the field because the Titans allowed them to do it. But how close did the Broncos really get to scoring a touchdown even on that last drive? Not very is the answer.
Did either of you feel like they were going to score a touchdown at any point on that drive, on that last drive? I didn't either. Rachel?
No. Here's the thing that bothers me the most, right, is you're like, this all should click. This all should be clicking. And I feel like Broncos country feels this way too, where you're like, oh, this is going to be the moment things just start to click. And you're like waiting for that and it never happens. But I've just lost complete hope that they can do anything. And I've even said, like, when they start playing the Ravens, the Chiefs, if this O-line continues to look the way that it looks, they may not get a first down because Russell Wilson may literally be on the ground the entire game. Like, it could be awful.
The Baltimore game could be spectacularly ugly for this team. If as long as the Ravens don't have a wave of injuries between now and then. Honestly, I think the Ravens are the best team left on the Broncos schedule. I think they're playing better football than the Chiefs right now. And
well, they only have to play each of those teams 3 times.
Yeah.
That. We'll certainly find out. Hey, we only lost by 40 to the Ravens.
This is why the playoff discussion ended Sunday. Because realistically, to be a playoff team, you have to be 10-7. And so to be 10-7, you're relying on winning 2 out of 3 against the Chiefs and the Ravens. Oh my! I mean, God.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but I already. It was funny for me to hear that kind of reaction because I had already emotionally moved on. I didn't think they were gonna beat the Titans. I always thought that was gonna be a tough game. So now I think you're just playing for the future right now. So the future right now is do you retain Hackett and some of his staff? And that's what's going to happen on Sunday. And, if you get past Sunday and they lose to the Raiders, then it really falls on Greg Penner, not George Payton, because Greg Penner, man, I don't know if you'll watch Coffee Break with your billions of dollars, but I hope somebody is whispering some truth to you and you don't stay shielded in a golden circle. Because if you lose your team, your investment from your daddy-in-law, if they lose on Sunday, okay, you need to fire George Payton as well as Nathaniel Hackett. You can't trust Littlefinger.
Let me ask you this, D-Mac, real quick.
Yeah.
You suggested that you'd make Evero the coach right now, right?
He kind of said that.
But here's what I really want to do, though. I want to make Gary Kubiak the coach and make him and just keep everybody else where they were.
He's not coming back to be a head coach.
Well, no, interim. What I would do is he would be my interim guy and let Clint call the plays as the offensive coordinator and let Evero focus on the defense. But I will say, to your point, if you don't try out Evero now, you won't know what you're going to get. He'll be gone. So it's a little bit of both, Mace. But I'm sorry, I interrupted your flow. Yes, Evero head coach. Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you this. The follow-up then is, let's say they made Evero the coach after the Raiders game, whatever happens, and say the Broncos go 5-2, 6-1 under Evero. What do you do, GM D-Mac?
I buy Omaha Productions for $1 billion. I get an ownership stake, and I do everything I can to get Sean Payton.
So
Now,
nothing Evero can do can get him the job then.
You're playing the what-if game. So in your what-if scenario, it's not Evero that's turned around Russell Wilson. It's Clint Kubiak. So if that were to happen, aside from my ideal scenario, yeah, I'd hire Evero and name Clint Kubiak the offense coordinator and go from there.
Okay, because to me, that's the only reason why you would make the move in season. Like almost every in season change doesn't really change the trajectory of the team.
Well,
you make the move, but like Wisconsin made the move with Jim Leonard, the former Broncos safety, because they wanted to give him a look.
Yeah. It's that scenario with Evero and all that. That's much more realistic than my fantasy buy Omaha Productions for $1 billion. My idea is better, but that idea is more in the real world and makes more sense. So yeah, I would give it a shot. I would have already done this, by the way. I would have done this after I would have done this a while ago, and I still would have done it after the Jaguars game during the bye week. I still would have done it. But Greg Penner doesn't know what he's doing. His father-in-law is calling him Roger Goodell. Listen, they don't know what they need to know yet, and I have no idea who's telling them the truth.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I was at that event last night, and a couple people did know what coffee break was. So we're going to take that as a win. Maybe Greg Penner and his billions of dollars has seen coffee break, and he's listening to you, D-Mac. You never know. That's going to do it for today's episode, though. Thanks for hanging out with the Zokley Stowe, D-Mac, Mace, myself, Rachel V. Hill. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. for another edition, and we'll see you guys then. Bye.